Hi, Tina here. Tina Lucille, Tina, Lucy, whatever you like. Today, August 1st, 2023, I will be uploading, hopefully, my first video on this channel. My channel is going to cover true crime, van life, RV travel, my dogs, mental health, whatever I feel like talking about. Um, Mostly true crime at this point. uh, along with art, maybe, when I go back to school in a couple weeks. I return back to school both as a teacher's assistant and a student in art. And I'm working towards my second degree in art. I already have a degree in fine art. So today I'd like to talk about the Long Island serial killer and what I believe. When I first heard of this case, which was back in 2010 when Shannan Gilbert went missing and they were looking for her, and they stumbled upon, between 2010 and 2011, like 10 other bodies. And there's actually much more than 10 bodies out there, because you're hearing about all these different cases around that within the close proximity of this Gilgo Beach strip. My initial feeling when I first heard of this, when it came up, was that there was more than one serial killer, because of just just that the four initial bodies that were found were covered in that, like, burlap, camouflage or burlap. I mean, everybody was assuming it was burlap sacks. But then they came upon um, the other bodies, and they were dismembered. I, the Asian male was not dismembered, but he, I guess, was. There was more damage to him than the others. From what they're saying, they haven't really said. I mean, initially, I guess they said that the girls were strangled, but I don't think they really said exactly how the girls died. And so there's the dismemberment, there's the toddler. These cases go back to 1997, but then one of them is actually 1996. But so the cases go back to the 90s. Herman is 59 years old. I do not believe this is his only, like, if it turns out that he did murder those four girls. I mean, if there's forensic evidence, and which it seems like there is, I don't think it was just those four. I believe he's been doing this since he was in his 20s, which would put it in the 90s, right? Well, no, maybe not. But anyway, I think he's been doing this since his 20s, and I don't think he stopped after they found them, the girls, in 2010, 2011. He might have had a cooling off period because of it, but I'm sure other bodies will turn up somewhere where they have already, and they haven't connected it to him. But he may have stopped for a couple of years because they found the bodies, and then picked it back up because nobody got caught. He didn't get caught. They really didn't come out with anything. And with all the cover up and all the other stuff that went along, and there's other suspects. There's that John Vitrioff, I think his name is. James Burke, the police captain, police chief. Um, then there was another, well, there's a couple of suspects, but there's the one who's a millionaire. He had a plant nursery, I believe, and an aquarium, and so he had access to burlap bags. And then he committed suicide when they found Shannan Gilbert's body. There's the doctor that's tied into Shannan Gilbert's case. I believe she was murdered. I don't believe that it was an accidental death. When they did that second autopsy, her hyoid was cracked. She was also found nude, and her clothes were on the opposite side of the house that doctor owned. And she was found, it was to the left of the house, and she was found to the right of the house. I mean, a good distance away. Now, granted, I do have experience working with mental health and mental health issues in my family, but I can tell you, having witnessed this, that when people have a psychotic break or a manic break, they do take their clothes off, and that is a thing, that they will strip down naked and run the streets. I can attest to that. However, her hyoid being broken, that phone call, and they made it sound like they, from what I understand, they didn't find any drugs in her system. Now, they could have metabolized, or they could have, no trace of them. However, so they, from what I understood, they didn't really find any drugs in her system. And then they also said that her 911 call was calm, but then at the end of that call, when they released it, at the end of that call, she is screaming in terror. So, who knows, but if it wasn't for her, they would not have found the other girls. We all know that. But there's a good website, the Gilgo Case, gilgocase.com, and it does have a lot of information about these cases, plus additional cases. So I encourage people to take a look at that. That is a pretty extensive resource about these cases. And they go over the map, and they go over Shannan Gilbert's path. I'm trying to say something. There's just like so much tied into this case with the surrounding people who live in this area. And so, what is going on in Suffolk, Nassau County? What's going on in Long Island with all this? Because the scary thing is having a serial killer in your area. I know. I grew up, and I was a teenager I was at the perfect age, the perfect look, with Son of Sam. And he did come to my neighborhood, and that was the last shootings. And the kid that lived around the block from me was shot. His date, Stacy, she did not make it. He's blind to this day. And we were out my friend Rob and I were out in this Sherwood Parkway in the same area. It was a nightmare. So to have a serial killer, one, is a nightmare. To have multiple serial killers dumping bodies in the same area is like unimaginable. So there's, so you have some people, commentators, who believe that it's him for all of it. My first initial reaction was there were multiple serial killers. So we won't know. I don't think we won't really know until we may never know. If he did them all, if there's multiple serial killers. They do have one guy behind bars in prison, John Vitrioff, for 2, and he is suspected of doing up to 19 murders. And 2 of those victims were found in Manorville. And so wasn't another victim in Gilgo body parts. It's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Um, it's just, let me just mention the people that they have identified on this strip. And then the four that are ultimately going to be tied to Rex Heuermann. So you have Maureen Brainard Barnes, you have Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello. Amber Costello, her story sticks with me for the reason that they pulled a ruse on the John, who may be Rex Heuermann, who may be the serial killer, that she set up a date with him at her house. He came there, and then these guys came in, or a guy came in acting like her boyfriend, and, you know, once she got the money, and then they got him out of the house. And then he texted her later on saying that wasn't very nice, and he convinced her to meet with him the next night, and then nobody ever saw her again. And the thing is that during one of it was People magazine investigates, and I knew I heard this story before because I was on, I don't know if it was Police Off the Cuff or Duty Ron. I was on one of the content creators, true crime commentators, and I had, mentioned in the chat that he was able to lure these girls away without, telling them. They did not disclose where they were going. They met him in secret, and some of them left their cell phone and all their belongings behind. So he was able to lure them and convince them to leave their stuff behind and to not tell anybody where they were going. And so they're thinking that that's, how he was able to get them away and not be traceable. And somebody asked me, how did I know that? And I had heard about it, like, when the story first came out, and then People magazine investigates. They had mentioned it in their show. So Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, Asian Doe, Baby Doe, that's the most heartbreaking. Peaches, who's Baby Doe's mother, and they named her Peaches because she has a tattoo of peaches on her. And they actually did trace down the guy who gave her the tattoo. He came forward when they posted that picture, and the only thing he knew about her, he didn't even know her name, was her approximate age. And she was found in 1997 in Hempstead Park. And then you have Fire Island Jane Doe, who has been unidentified. I think she's the one from 1996. But then you have, like, possible connected cases. You have Shannon Gilbert, Adrian Isaac, Jacqueline Smith, Cherry. So it was another Doe, and she had tattoo of cherries on her. Tanya Rush, Asian Jane Doe. I didn't even know that. And then Tina Foglia. Forgive me if I mispronounce that name. But she was found in 1982. So that would put him at like 19 years old. Foglia. Tina Foglia was last seen after midnight on February 1st, 1982. This is from the GilgoCase.com website. Was last seen after midnight on February 1st, 1982 at Hammerheads. Oh, I know where the Hammerheads is at. Wow. West Islip, New York. Department of Transportation workers discovered her body on February 3rd along the shoulder of Southern State Parkway, a few miles north of the Robert Moses Causeway. Her remains were dismembered and placed in 3 separate plastic garbage bags. A diamond ring that Tina was known to wear was missing. Tina lived in Brentwood, New York, and worked as a home health aide. According to her sister, Tina had recently started dating a doctor, however, she never revealed his name. The DNA of an unknown male was found on the garbage bags. In 2017, police announced familial DNA testing would be performed. Oh, I wonder what they're doing with that. Well, hopefully they're processing that right now because, geez Louise, and she was not. It appears that she was not in a high risk profession, but that is something else. I think I read that, but I forgot. Excuse me. And you have Asian Jane Doe on January 2013. So this is after they found the girls. The skeleton remains of a woman were discovered in a garbage bag in Waddingtown. The bag was buried in a small piece of brush in a sandy area along the short end of Sheep Lane. The woman, estimated to be 20 to 50 years old and possibly Asian. Obvious signs of trauma were noted on the bones. The woman was wearing a 24-karat gold pig pendant, which may be a reference to the year of the pig. In some Asian cultures, recent years of the pig include 59, 71, 8. Okay, so the bag also contained a bra, dark-colored jeans, and socks. And there's Tony Rush. Seen on June 28, 2008 by surveillance cameras, which showed her leaving her building at Van Dyke Housing in Brooklyn. She was on Livonia Avenue, walking towards the subway station. She does. Summer State Park. I mean, there's so many things happening and coming up around that area. But sad. Anyway, he had his conference today. I only caught part of it. I guess it was postponed to the 27th. However, I didn't catch all of it. His attorney did get, what did he say? 8 terabytes of evidence or information. So he's got to go through it. But anyway, I went a lot longer than I wanted to go. But hopefully I enjoy this, and I'll continue to upload because I do enjoy watching the live shows, the live streams with the content creators who cover true crime. And I do like to comment and exchange ideas with people that are on the chat. And I do follow, and I do, I am interested in that topic. I'm interested in other topics, but right now, true crime seems to be the thing that I'm stuck on. Anyway, talk to you soon.